Good evening, my fellow true crime addicts, and welcome back to True Crime Spirits. All right, guys, so I'm hard at work getting the content ready for you guys. For those of you who are first time listeners, hello and welcome. I'm Brandy, and this is my podcast where I tell you a true crime tale to feed my true crime addiction. And to get out of my comfort zone, I am trying a new adult beverage each week. So, the last story I told you guys about was how dangerous Wisconsin was for the women of the 80s. I mean, I literally found article upon article about how so many women were found murdered and thrown out like trash all along the highways, even found in their own homes. Like, damn, y'all, I could literally create a new episode each week with the amount of murdered women I read about. One article even implied there might be more than one serial killer. Ugh. Someone needed to make a sign and tell these women they are not safe in Wisconsin. Is this still happening? To the ladies out there in Wisconsin, near Wisconsin, are y'all okay? James Duquette. Thank goodness that guy was finally locked up. He is a literal piece of shit. So starting off, Alaskan beverages are hard to come by. Apparently, Alaskans like their gin. I found 3 popular drinks and they are all gin based. So for the 3rd episode in a row, I'll be drinking gin. Sorry guys. But hey, this is bound to happen, right? I mean, there's another one called the Duck Fart. I almost had to choose that one with a name like that. However, there's a lot involved, so I decided to wait on that one. I am curious, but I am also lazy. So tonight I'm going with the Alaskan cocktail. It's gin, yellow chartreuse, and orange bitters. It suggests Tom Jid, old Tom Jid, but I've only got the Tanqueray, so I'm just going to go with that. I would suggest, just based on the cost of the ingredients, I would suggest that if you're going to have this drink, get it out somewhere. Get it in Alaska, I don't know, but the amount of the alcohol that you put into the drink is not worth buying all separate ingredients. Right off the bat, I have to say, I'm not really a fan. The yellow chartreuse or chartreuse, whatever, it's a bit herby for my liking. And I feel like it kind of brings out the gin in a rather unpleasant way for me. This is definitely not going to be a drink that I'm going to have anytime soon. Ugh, I'm just not a fan of the taste. This is something that personally I would have to drink super fast if I knew that this was the only thing getting served. All right, so tonight I stumbled upon this case by total accident when I was trying to look up some origin stories for songs for my bonus episode. I got one of the song names wrong, and surprisingly, it led me to the case of Joshua Wade. Out of all the states, Alaska tends to be one of those we rarely hear about. Sure, out of this state came one of the scariest serial killers of all time, Israel Keys. Joshua Wade, though, is not like him. He is said to be quite intelligent. However, his crimes don't really reflect that supposed intelligence. In Wade's earlier years, he got a rough start in life. He was a young victim of sexual abuse. He attempted suicide as a boy, and he spent most of his life in detention centers. And when he wasn't in detention centers, he was being arrested for one crime or another. Wade had demonstrated violent and aggressive behavior since the age of 10. His first brush with the law was at age 12, and at age 16, he was caught carrying a handgun. By 19, he was an accused but an acquitted felon. Unfortunately, Wade's criminal career was only getting started. Let's get into that. So on Saturday, September 2nd, 2000, at 2:15 a.m., a passerby discovered Della Brown's body. She had been dumped in an abandoned shed near a CBS-affiliated news studio in Anchorage. Della was on her back with her blue jeans pulled down to her ankle. Her left arm rested on her abdomen, her right arm was raised above her head, and her bra and blue tank top was pushed above her breasts. Della's hair had either been cut out or ripped off, and her skull was so pulverized that the coroner compared it to a melting bag of ice. Police found no weapon in the shed, but investigators believe a large rock was used to crush her skull. Burnt matches littered the shed's floor near her body. Stalkers had paraded through the shed for days, lighting matches to see her battered corpse. Because of that, the filthy shed produced no usable trace evidence. The medical examiner did find a pubic hair as well as semen in Della's vagina, and a bloody fingerprint was also found at the scene. Now, at the time, Della was very intoxicated. She struggled with alcoholism for many years. She maintained her sobriety, attended AA meetings, and sometimes she fell off the wagon and would drink to the point of passing out. Della had attempted to take her own life a couple of times, with her last attempt being just a week before her death. Growing up, Della did not have an easy life. Her mother moved to California when she was a child, leaving her in the care of her grandmother and step-grandfather. Her step-grandfather sexually abused her. At the time of Della's death, she was in an abusive relationship, and naturally, her boyfriend was prime suspect for her murder. It wasn't long before detectives became aware of another person of interest, 20-year-old Joshua Wade, who told at least 7 people that he was the one who smashed in Della's head and even gave updates to his buddies throughout the night. Here's what I mean. Wade and his 3 passengers, 2 young men and a young woman, were driving through the streets of Anchorage late into the evening when they came across a woman passed out in the middle of the road. Josh wanted to run her over, but 19-year-old Dwayne Clevenger convinced Josh to stop and let him drag the woman out of the road. So Dwayne left Della Brown near an abandoned shed. The group drove around a little while longer. I'm guessing at some point they dropped off the girl because it's reported that just the 3 men went to a friend's automotive repair shop that was about a block away from the abandoned shed where they had left Della. The plan was to spend the night at this garage and drink while working on cars. Later, Josh announced he was going back to the shed to see if the passed out woman had any money on her. Throughout the night, Josh returned to the garage several times, even asking for a condom once. A witness said that another time Wade returned to the garage covered in blood. At this time, Wade even admitted that he had killed the woman. He took them to the shed to show them the bloodied body of Della Brown. These guys had police records and were all at least partially intoxicated, so they didn't want the police to get involved. Plus, Wade threatened to kill them. And no one said a thing, at least until a few days later when police offered an award for information leading to the capture of Della's killer. With the promise of award money, those young men began to sing like canaries. On two separate occasions, the detective wired Wade's friends and sent them to talk to him. He not only made incriminating statements about killing Della, but when shown the news story written by Sheila Toomey in the Anchorage Daily News about the 6 murdered Alaska Native women, he even suggested that he kill 3 of them. At this point, police felt they had gathered more than enough evidence against Wade, so they arrested him and charged him with Della Brown's rape and murder, as well as 6 other counts, including tampering with evidence. Mary Ann Henry was named lead prosecutor in the case. She, a Harvard graduate, was the first woman to prosecute homicide in the state of Alaska. Marcy McDaniel assisted Miss Henry. Marcy, a young, inexperienced lawyer, was eager to learn from one of the best prosecutors in the state. Mary Ann Henry knew the prosecution had almost no forensic evidence. They had no weapon and no trace evidence. It was discovered that the semen and the pubic hair found in Della did not even belong to Joshua Wade. And the bloody fingerprint left at the scene wasn't Wade's either. The prosecution did have a strong circumstantial case, though. There were 7 witnesses that came forward and stated that Ward had confessed that he had killed Della. They saw blood on his clothes, but unfortunately, investigators were unable to find the bloody clothes. The prosecution also had the tape of Wade admitting to his friends that he killed Della and suggesting he might have killed 2 other women. The 7 individuals were not solid witnesses. They were petty criminals who had been impaired by drugs and alcohol the night of the murder. They had trouble remembering dates, times, and the sequences of events. Still, they all told the same story, and Miss Henry was hopeful that their story would convince the jury beyond all reasonable doubt. Wade was very lucky. His defense lawyers, Jim McComas and Cindy Strout, were considered to be 2 of the best in the state, and they had a dual-pronged approach for securing a not guilty verdict for their client. First, his lawyers put forth the theory that Wade bragged about murdering Della to gain street cred with his buddies. He showed them her body as, quote, proof, and since Wade was such a talker and a braggart, he couldn't help himself when shown the photo of the murdered women in the paper. He just had to claim that he murdered some of these women as well. Secondly, the defense attacked the sloppy work done by the Anchorage Police Department and the Anchorage District Attorney's Office, claiming they had stopped investigating before they found the true murderer. Police never discovered about who the semen, pubic hair, and bloody fingerprint belonged to. Also, they had several other